So hi, I'm Katie Toomey. I'm the Worcester Register of Deeds. I took office on January 2nd of 2019 after an election in 2018. I'm happy to have you here on site at the Worcester Registry of Deeds. We're in our Commonwealth room where we have a beautiful mural of the former location of the Registry of Deeds, which was 2 Main Street. When I first got out of law school and came back to Worcester, I used to hang out down there in my practice of law, and now I just get the mural because the building is now apartments and condominiums. Anyway, wanted to tell you a little bit about myself and about the Worcester Registry of Deeds. So as I said, I was a private practice attorney, and I came into office in 2019. I've lived in Central Mass for just about my entire life. I moved here in the late 70s when I was a toddler with my family, but I grew up in Holden, and I now live in Worcester. And I'm happy to be out and about telling people about what the Worcester Registry of Deeds can do and things you can do there. We like to promote and talk to people about doing genealogy research as well as historical research. We have, it's always amazing when people come in and start talking, when I sit at the customer service desk and people come in and talk about movie locations they're scouting. We had a gentleman here, spent multiple weeks in 2019 planning to shoot a movie in Gardner, Massachusetts, which is one of our towns in our community, with regards to the furniture maker Hayward Wakefield. And they were using the factory settings for, I believe it was a Stephen King series that he was doing up in the north part of the county. So it's very exciting to have people come and visit us so we can talk about these things. On a general basis, we get phone calls in and out all day with people asking about things as far back as the 1800s and 1700s. I've had a woman from California who I spoke with extensively who was doing research on her family from 5 generations ago in Bolton, Massachusetts, because she was intrigued by the American Revolution. So it's a historical place of documents. We love to have people either call in or visit our webpage, which is masslandrecords.com. If you ever have any trouble navigating it, there are some tools online, but we also invite anybody to always call and ask us. Our customer service line is 508-368-7000, and we could dedicate a little bit of time to helping people. The majority of our phone calls are people saying, can I have a copy of my deed? Can you tell me, is my mortgage still valid? Has it been discharged? And we navigate and talk people through all of those processes. We do get a lot of people that call us and ask, can they have their plot plan or can they see their things? We don't carry that. We always direct them to their town or city assessor's office. It's a frustrating system because they think we have it, but we don't. We have plans, we have written deeds, and that's the brunt of our written documentation. We go back to 1731 is when we first branched off and became Worcester. Anything that predates 1731 is actually in the Cambridge deeds. When Middlesex and Worcester County still interacted a little bit. All of our records back to the very first deed in Book 1, Page 1 are online and accessible. We are indexed back to 1961, whereas you could put in John Smith. I don't recommend that because it would be an enormous search, but just for sake of you put in John Smith, you'd go back and see any document related to anybody named John Smith to 1961. If you wanted to go beyond that, you would have to go into what's called our unindexed property. We're in the process of looking into indexing further back, but at the time right now, there's a different procedure for doing that. Again, we can always explain, we're talking about having some open coursework on that, explaining people how to go and research prior to 1961. But every document we've ever recorded since 1731 is available online for the public for free, and you can download it or print it yourself. We are here every working Monday through Friday. If it's not a state holiday, we are here from 8:15 to 4:30. We record from 9 to 4. We do a lot of recording, both walk-in persons, mail, and electronic recording. Since the pandemic, our numbers have increased to 80% electronic recording. I'm sad to see less human interaction, but I get it. People are kind of converting back. With people starting to go back to work and being there, it has not lessened. I thought it would. I thought we'd see a little bit more. We've seen some foot traffic, but we have consistently stayed at 80% since the pandemic hit its full swing in 2020. What else can I tell you about the Worcester Registry of Deeds? We are, I'll tell you this from the pandemic, we were here every day. We never closed. We had one incident where somebody had a positive test and we were nervous about it, and it was 2:30 in the afternoon. Our footprint here at the Worcester Registry of Deeds is quite large, so we were able to send 95% of the staff home. Myself and 2 other people stayed behind to finish out the workday because we had work on our desks and we were deemed essential. We were able to have the office cleaned overnight and reopened at 8:15 the following morning. So we never had any breaks in our working relationship with the public. We have been here for every day since the pandemic hit, and I'm proud to say that our staff took every precaution necessary so that they could perform their job duties as necessary to provide the service to the Commonwealth that we do. A frequently asked question by both seniors as well as younger generations on a regular basis is deed fraud. Personally, I was out last evening and I had a gentleman who was in his early 40s ask me about deed fraud because the commercials are running rampant on television. I get asked this question frequently: does it happen? Yes, I'm not going to deny it. Does it happen often? Absolutely not. It does not happen often. In my tenure, I've been here for just shy of 3 years. We've had 1 accusation of a fraudulent deed recorded. Honestly, I would say the biggest wary situation is family interaction. It was a divorce gone awry, and it was some family situation where it was alleged somebody forced their name on a deed and transferred it inappropriately. What I can tell you is it can happen, but a fraudulent deed is not a conveyance. I can't stress that enough. I'll say it twice. A fraudulent deed is not a conveyance. If somebody fraudulently signs your name, it was not you signing it, so you did not convey your property. All I can say is to be attentive. We welcome people to look at our documents online every day if you want. It's available 24 hours a day. You can check the deeds anytime. If you see anything when you run your own personal name or address and you question it, please call us. Please call the Secretary of State's office, or please call your local police department to inquire about it. We work with all those entities. We frequently go to seminars with District Attorney Joe Early's office, and we talk about situations of people trying to commit fraud on seniors. On a personal note, I have my in-laws are senior citizens in Worcester, and my father-in-law has made it sport to tell me about every solicitation he gets that he deems fraudulent. And we keep a running conversation and tally about it because it is running rampant, and I am so proud of him that he catches everything, and he likes to talk to the people on the phone and terrorize them, which makes it even better for me. So we are well aware of that. I'm cognizant of it. I bring it to work. We talk about it. We, at our customer service team, which is about 5 or 6 strong, who answer all the phone calls, are very sensitive to those questions. We try to answer with as much information as we can give and help people, guide them through the process if they felt they've had an issue. We work with them on all of that.
I'm glad you're all here. This morning, I get to introduce a very important person for the city. Today, I want to welcome Katie Toomey. She's the Worcester District Register of Deeds. Katie will give a brief overview and answer questions with regard to the daily function of the Registry of Deeds, including the nuts and bolts of the most frequently recorded documents and the legal description of how real property is owned. If you ever wanted to know about your land or your family's land, this is your opportunity to learn how to search our online records and ask questions on the legal terminology and ownership interest. We hold the records to your largest asset, and we are the historical record relating to land. So I want everyone to give a loud applause for Katie. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. So good morning. It's hard to follow an introduction like that, so I'm very excited to be here. I would have come sooner, but COVID got in the way. So I became the Register of Deeds 2.5 years ago. I think you know my predecessor who comes and does some office hours here, Tony Vigliotti. You might have met him. He comes in and answers some legal questions. Similar to Tony, I'm an attorney. I've been a lawyer for the last 21 years. I live here in Worcester proper. I live right over on the next hill on Holy Cross Hill on College Hill. I've lived in the city for the last 16 years consistently. I briefly lived here on Vernon Hill when I first graduated law school in a famed 3-decker. And then we built our house over on the College Hill side. So, a little bit about the Worcester Registry of Deeds. So, as my introduction said, and she gave it the perfect right inflection of real property. So that's a legal term of art, but what real property is basically the dirt in the earth. So my office, which is the Worcester district, covers 54 communities. Yes, I said 54. We cover 54 communities, and we hold the legal documentation for every piece of land, including what you're sitting on, the road you took to get here, the Mass Pike, the railroads, the Quabbin Reservoir, Lake Quinsigamond, you name it, I've got the land title documents for it. We date back to 1731. I have the original deed sitting in my office. It's super cool. So, that's kind of in a nutshell what I do. I wanted to come in because I tend to get a lot of questions. We have an awesome new customer service desk that answers a lot of questions people call in. And I know back when we had an election and we voted in a new president, there was a lot of television ads. And if anybody's a TV watcher, there was a lot of television ads about home fraud. And I get at least 3 to 5 phone calls a day of people asking, can someone steal my deed and steal my home? So that was something that sparked me when I reached out to Suki through a mutual friend and said, you know, do you want me to come in and be available? Because people ask about this. There's a lot of TV ads out there. So I thought I'd just kind of explain a little bit about what we do and how we hold the records and what the mechanism is and what that kind of scary thing of home fraud that people are marketing and what's out there for that. So back when we had an election and we had 2 candidates running against each other, there was this big push for making sure that people in the suburban cities like Worcester protected their homes, and they were buying things and there were all these advertisements for it. But what they were trying to tell you is that somebody could come in and record a fraudulent or fake deed and take ownership of the home you live in, whether it's yours or your kids or your mother's or your sister's house. And I'm here to tell you, does it happen? Yes. Does it happen often? Absolutely not. Usually it's a family situation where people are miscommunicating with each other and or there's some nefarious or underhanded reason. But does it happen often? Absolutely not. People are very concerned, but the bottom line is if you don't sign a deed and have it notarized in front of somebody and actually sign it yourself, it is a fraudulent or fake transfer. So I just want to make sure you understand that you have to sign something, either the deed itself or the authority to give somebody else the deed, and all of that is always properly documented. So I always want to get that out of the way and make sure people understand that that's something that's out there. The gentleman to my left is reading my newsletter. I'm happy to see that he has a copy of it. I know there's some floating around. We started last fall to try to reach out to people during COVID, but it's been so well received, we're going to start doing it every month. I brought the most recent one, which is of the small town of Petersham, Massachusetts, which is way up in the northern part of Worcester County and is on the edge of Franklin County. And what Petersham is actually one of our smallest in population communities, but one of the largest landmass. It's in the top 5 in the entire state of Massachusetts for landmass and acreage. And the reason it is so great is back in, and I'm gonna have to remember this off the top of my head, I wanna say it was 1938, but I could be wrong. They sunk 5 communities to create the Quabbin, which is that giant reservoir out in the western part of the state that feeds the water to Boston and the suburbs of Boston. And one of those 5 towns was a small town called Dana, D-A-N-A. And a good portion of what was remaining of Dana went to Petersham, and that's how they have become one of the largest land masses. The other 4 communities all happen to be in Plymouth and Bristol County, including Dartmouth, Mass, which is also one of the largest land masses in Massachusetts. Petersham is a really cool town to go visit if you ever want to get somebody to give you a road trip. I highly recommend it. It's so beautiful to drive around, but they have one of the oldest country stores in Massachusetts, and you don't ever have to go to the police station, you don't have to go to town hall, everything happens in the country store. And they have the best sandwiches known to man. So you just can't get enough of it. It's right on the town common. And it's just amazing what you can see when you go to all these small towns and these communities. So back to the point of why I started this dialogue was, would you have known about Petersham? Would you have known Petersham was a member of the Worcester district or the Worcester County community? Maybe, maybe not. So we started highlighting a different town each month, discussing what we found out about that town, historical figures, and tying it into the land documents that we have out there. So we did do Worcester I did do Worcester back. I'm a big fan of the women's suffrage movement and women's right to vote, and we had the 100th anniversary in May of this year. So I highlighted Abby Kelly Foster. A lot of you might have heard of Abby Kelly Foster here in Worcester. She was an amazing person. She was actually born further west from here, lived in the Boston area and taught for a while, and then settled with her husband in Worcester in the Tatnick Square neighborhood on the Paxton line. And Abby Kelly Foster actually, not only was she one of the largest proponents of the women's first right to vote, but more importantly, in my opinion right now, she was actually one of the stops on the Underground Railroad. And her home has been made a National Historic Monument from that. It's currently a private residence. Somebody bought it and lives in it, but it's a cool old brick farmhouse out in the Tatnick area that you can just do a drive-by and see, which is really kind of neat. So. But my newsletter, when I did the Abby Kelly Foster, we highlighted it, and I did the title exam for that house and showed who the ownership was it. And what we do is we make links and we send it in emails to each of your senior centers of the 54 communities that we encompass, and they actually have hyperlinks that you can click on it and you can actually see the deed. And the one for Abby Kelly Foster's was old enough that it was actually a handwritten deed. So it's kind of neat to see the different ways that they did it back then. So, but we go back to 1731. We have documents that date back to that time. We just handle, for the most part, deeds, mortgages, liens, homesteads, plans for subdivisions, and all of those things. And that is kind of where we're at the Worcester Registry of Deeds. I always want people to reach out to me and say, come back and show me how to look stuff up. I would bring a laptop, I will set up, I will do office hours here. I would be glad to show people how things work at the Worcester Registry of Deeds. We get a lot of people that say, typical call in a day is, I'm gonna move in with my son and I wanna put his name on my deed. How do I do that? Probably get that question once a day. You would have to draw up a new deed. You would have to sign that deed and give ownership to your child if that's the method you want to do it. A lot of people call and say, can't you just change it in the computer from what I see from home? We can't do that. It is a legal document that you must sign and you must record at the Registry of Deeds. And our job is to publish it to the world to show that that's who you want to give, sell, whatever, your property. So our whole world is publication. We publish everything. We do it the moment that it goes in our hot little hands. As long as we accept it and the fee is paid, it is put on record within minutes, and it is on the whole cyber world and the World Wide Web for the whole world to see within that first minute. So we are always telling people it's there forever, so make sure you like it.
What's the oldest deed you got there?
So we started recording when Worcester became the seat of the county of Worcester on April 2nd, 1731. 1731. Before that, the deeds were held in Middlesex County. So if you go and you're trying to find some stuff from way back prior to that, you got a little homework ahead of you, because sometimes you have to deal with the older counties of Middlesex out in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So, but Worcester itself is, we go back to April 2nd, 1731. So, anybody else have anything they want to add or question or?
I just wanted
sure.
to go back. I know we're a little off topic, but it's all interesting and great. But I had to step out for a few minutes, so maybe you went over this. But the Homestead Act.
Yeah.
So I know for me, when I bought a house, whatever, that was automatically part of what the paperwork that
Your lawyer did it for you properly, so
Yes.
good job.
Right. So, but how does someone know, like for some people in this room, maybe they owned a house like, you know, before I did. When was it like part of the day you sit down and do all the paperwork with your lawyer? Or can people know whether they have one or not?
You can.
I get that question sometimes.
Perfect.
I don't know if I have one or not.
Gotcha. That is a common question as well. So to calm everybody's fears, first and foremost, former Governor Deval Patrick in 2011 made an automatic homestead law. So everybody has one. If you claim Massachusetts as your primary residence when you file your taxes and you claim that you live somewhere and you're registered to vote somewhere and you say this is where I live, you have an automatic homestead if you are the property owner and it is your residential primary address. So you have a value up to, as the owner of the property, if your name is on the deed effective March 16th, 2011, you would have a homestead in the amount of up to $125,000. If you are a married person and you jointly own as tenants by the entirety, you would have coverage up to $250,000 without ever recording anything. The recording of homesteads has become more prevalent and people have done it, I think, because of their fear of getting sued, liens, and all that other stuff. What the homestead does for you is it protects your property from a forced sale. So it doesn't protect you. So if you, the example I use when people call me and say, I don't want someone to take my house. What it protects you from is, let's say you go out and you get a Wells Fargo Visa card and you charge up some stuff because you're helping out your family or you're doing something, and then you fall on hard times and you can't make your credit card bills. If Wells Fargo puts a lien on your property, they can put a lien on your property. They cannot say, John Smith didn't pay my credit card bill, so I'm going to sell his house and make sure that payment is made. They cannot sell your house out from under you because you have declared it your homestead. But going back, Deval Patrick put that into legislature so it's automatic. So as long as you claim to the world like the IRS, the Department of Revenue, and all that stuff that it's your primary residence, it's automatic up to those values. As a lawyer and being a little bit more on the side of I buy a lot of insurance and I'm overly cautious, I'd always record one. It's a $35 fee. We have the form at the registry. Anybody's ever welcome to call or to look on our records at masslandrecords.com and look for their homestead. You can search by your name, you can search by your property. If you live with a child, a sibling, an aunt, an uncle, you can look up their information and make sure the property is protected. If not, we have a stock form that we can help you fill out. I am a notary. There's 2 or 3 other notaries on staff. We will notarize for free at the Registry of Deeds, and the recording fee, I'm sad to say, is a flat fee. We can't discount anybody, whether your status is veteran, senior, or anything. It's $35. We record a lot of homesteads in a day. The most important thing you need to remember is once you record a homestead, it doesn't go away unless you release it or sell the property. If you refinance your property or if you do anything to it, it does not take the homestead away. It's with you as long as you own the property. You have to physically resign. A lot of residents that live in Worcester for half the year and say Florida or South Carolina or somewhere a little bit warmer than Worcester in those awful winter months, if they want to take residency up in one of those southern states, they would have to release their homestead here to put it on over there. So sometimes we get a lot of phone calls. Pinellas County in Florida calls me all the time and they're verifying whether or not somebody has a homestead recorded in Worcester because they're trying to claim their homestead in Florida. So the woman at that county clerk's office loves to call me. I must be overly friendly. But she frequently calls me, so we have nice little chats about it. But that's where the homestead law is. If you want, I can always come back. I can leave some tutorials. If you are internet savvy, our webpage is pretty easy to navigate, but there's tutorials on there on how to find stuff and how to search it. If you ever call us on the telephone, we will walk you through it if you're on your iPad or on your tablet or if you're on a computer here. At the Senior Center, we can walk you through how to do it yourself. And if all else fails, you can call us and we'll pull it up on the screen and we'll print it and we'll snail mail it to you because we're happy to do that, and we do that all day long. We print deeds and we print homesteads for homeowners, and we are thrilled to throw it in an envelope and mail it to you. I get a lot of calls from, I have a woman in the town of Blackstone down on the Rhode Island border who loves to call me, and she's now realized that she can look up all her neighbors' properties and she thinks that's better than sliced bread. So there's a lot of information out there, so she's trying to navigate all that. I did bring the homestead brochures that are published by my office and Secretary Galvin's office in conjunction together, so I did bring a bunch of those. And I also brought a handout. I got sidetracked because he asked awesome questions and commentaries, and I'm going to talk to you after because I want to know your name, is that I brought a form. I prepared some notes back in June when I was coming up with the topic of deeds and stuff like that. I'm going to leave them here, and if people want to read through them and take notes and say, she didn't address this, or now I have a question that relates to that, you can find me.
You ask the team that brought me in, like Suki and Linda and all those guys, and if you want, get a hold of me, email me, call me. I will either come back or I'll talk to you on the phone and answer it for you. Happy to do so.
So I thank you for spending some time with me. I appreciate the fact that the Worcester Senior Center invited me to visit, as well as came and visited me to finish kind of wrapping up this interview. But the bottom line is we are here as an entity. We have an online presence, we have a human presence, and we do invite people to come. We are somewhat restricted right now with COVID, but we plan on opening up a little bit more public access. We have computers here, we can print stuff, but the bottom line is if you're looking for land records, genealogical records, or just want to fact find a little bit about your favorite location, whether it's a museum or an apple orchard or someplace you visited within the 55 communities of the Worcester District, we welcome you to contact us or visit us, and we will help you find out any documentation we have with regards to the dirt and the land that involves that place. And thanks for having me. Have a great day.